Audrey's helping. She's scooping the apples out, straining them, transporting them over to the stock pot. Hey everybody, welcome back to Second Wind Homestead. Today we're still trying to use up all those plums, and we have some apples as well, so we're going to make plum applesauce. I have Daniel over here. He is being a lovely helper, and he is coring up and chopping up the apples. I have a bowl of lemon juice and some water there for him to dump straight into, and then I am straining from there and putting it over in the stock pot. We're starting with about 6 pounds of apples. To get started with, I'm going to get those in first since they take a little longer to cook down than the plums. Okay, we have about 2/3 of the apples in there already. This is a 12-quart stock pot I'm using today because I'm making a large batch. We're going to add in, I like to add a little extra lemon juice just to make sure. The acidity should be plenty, safe enough for canning with the apples and the plums because they're very acidic on their own. Like I said, I don't mind adding just a little bit of lemon juice to be sure. I kind of like the little tartness it gives it too. Daniel is chopping up. We're actually going to do a total of about 8 pounds of apples. And then we'll get started on the plums, see what we can fit in the stock pot. Alright, that is officially all of the apples in the stock pot. We are probably 2/3 full with just apples. I've already turned the heat on low just to get them started, and I am going to add, I'm just going to do 1 cup of sugar for this whole thing. I don't like a ton of sugar in there. I just want a little bit. And this 1 cup spread over a full stock pot worth of applesauce is not that much. We got it on low. We'll start cranking heat up just a little bit. Daniel's starting on the plums. We are just simply quartering them and pitting them. Peels can stay on. We have about 5 pounds, I weighed them. We have about 5 pounds of plums that are going to go in with those apples. Just dumped all the plums in with the apples. We now have a full stock pot. Audrey's attempting to stir up for me. If you need to, if you're worried, I mean, I started mine out on low, but if you're worried about scorching, you can add just half a cup of water or so to get it started, but I noticed my apples had already started to release some juice. So Audrey's going to try and get it stirred up here for me, and I'll probably crank the heat up a little bit and get it to a simmer. Alright, couple minutes, 5 minutes or so passed, coming in to stir. As soon as it quits fogging up the lens. See all the liquid that's making down there? That's good. So, oh, there it goes again. Sorry guys. There we go. All that liquid down there. It's all released by the fruit. I have not added anything besides that 1/4 cup of lemon juice. Alright, it's been about 6 or 7 minutes. I can hear that my fruit is simmering. I don't know if it's going to come across on the camera, but I'm just coming in every couple of minutes and stirring it up. I can already tell the fruit's starting to soften and break down. Probably simmer it 10 to 15 more minutes, stir in, every couple of minutes. Make sure it doesn't burn on the bottom until we get it all nice and soft. You want the apples to be falling apart. I'm about 10 to 15 minutes in. You can see how much we have cooked down to about just over the halfway point on the stock pot. It is boiling away, simmering away. It's cooked down a lot. It's releasing a lot of juices, but the plums are breaking down really well. The apples are still, they are not soft enough yet. It's taken, they should literally just like crush and crumble under pressure. So we're going to cook down probably 10 minutes or more and see what our apples look like then. Apples are now smushing right under pressure from my spoon, so I'm going to turn the burner off. I am going to transfer it spoonful off my ladle. I have my food mill set up on a saucepan. I have an extra bowl over to the side. When my saucepan gets full, I'll transfer it to the bowl and continue working in batches. So, get started. I just try and drain a little bit of the liquid off. I do not want to drip this all over my kitchen if I can help it. And look at that. See? I told you I was graceful. I'm going wanted to take a moment to clean that up. Move it off. I have a glass stovetop, so I don't like to leave anything on it, especially something as sugary as this. I do not want it to bake on. Alright, I usually can get a good two good ladlefuls. I might do a third one in here. Alright, my food mill is simple. Just go around and around. It forces the fruit pulp down through the holes. I have it on a really fine mesh. And your skins and everything stay in the food mill. It takes a little bit of muscle power sometimes, and it's a little noisy, but does a great job. Usually run it till I've got most of this through. You can see pulp and juice just running out. Then I load it up with a couple more spoonfuls, and I just keep going until I have all of this gone through the food mill. Occasionally you will have to stop and clean the skins and stuff out of the food mill so it doesn't get jammed up, and it's a lot easier work if you're not fighting through a ton of skins and stuff. Sorry about that. One of my friends called to tell me she found a place to get canning jars. I've moved my stock pot over because I'm tired of dripping. I'm messy. So move my stock pot over so that I'm right here next to the food mill, and I am just going to keep, like I said, keep putting these through the food mill until they are all done and in my bowl. All of the fruit has been put through the food mill. I have put it back into the pot. We now have a lovely sauce. I've brought it back up to a simmer, and it's trying to spit at me, so I'm going to move it. I'm going to move it back over to my workstation. I have my jars are boiling, so they are ready to go. I have my canning funnel. Are you looking at me? I have my canning funnel, my deep bubbler headspace tool, some vinegar with a cloth to wipe the rims, my jar lifter. I have lids and rings ready to go. I'm going to pull out one jar at a time, and we're going to fill it and get them loaded back in the canner. My water is a little pink in the canner. I am doing a succession of canner loads through here, and I had one load siphon a little bit, but not enough that I'm worried about changing out my water yet. So just going to fill it up. I am canning in quarts because we're 5 of us in the house at the moment. A quart is about, a serving or so a piece for us. So I'm going to fill. You want a 1/2 inch headspace. I'm right at it. Take my vinegar, wipe off the rim, put a lid down, and a ring. You want to tighten it fingertip tight from 3 fingertips, and you just spin the ring until the jar starts to spin with it. Then I'm going to lift it and put it back in my canner and pull out the next jar. I know water's not covering the jars yet. That's okay. The water displacement from when I put these back in will more than totally cover the jars, the inch I need. I also have, excuse me, I have a little saucepan back there so that when I get towards the end, if I have too much water and I know putting that next full jar in there is going to displace enough that it would dump over, I dump the last jar I pull out into my saucepan. It's handy, it's right there. I have it to top the canner off later for another load if I need to. That's how I like to work. I need the minimum of having to stop and start and do 40 things, so I need more than that one. That's not half inch yet. That should be about half inch. Yep. Alright, vinegar. Wipe the rim. Make sure you get it clean. Wipe the ring. Your threads around the outside too if you were messy like I was. Lid. Ring. Fingertip tight. See, that one bumped it up enough to start covering the lids. I like to sterilize and get my jars warm in my canner because I have limited space, which means that I have to empty jars. So I always try to be extremely careful. You are working with boiling water. Curious to see how many jars we'll get out of this today. Okay, you're good. Let me get the rest of these jars filled up, and I'll see you back in a minute. Alright, I have my jars loaded. I only got 5 quart jars out of that. I'm happy with that. I did pull out 1 jar's worth of liquid partway through, thinking I might need to. I pulled the other 2 jars I didn't need out. They're over there cooling down. You want to make sure you have at least an inch liquid, and I am just at that inch. So I am going to actually, this is why I keep it right here. It's still really hot. I'm going to just go ahead and top off the canner. Make sure that gives me a good 1.25 inches. A good 1.25 inches, if not a little more. Alright. It's full again. We're going to put the lid on, crank the heat back up on it on mine, get it up to a boil again. Once you are at a boil again, start your timer. It is 20 minutes for quarts for applesauce for my altitude, so I'm going to do 20 minutes. If you live more than 1,000 feet above sea level, you will need to go online and look up, just say canning altitude chart, and it'll pop up what you need. Ball has a great one. To see how long you need to process yours for. If you are under 1,000 feet sea level and you are doing quarts, it's 20 minutes. If you're doing pints, it's 15 minutes. So that's what I'm going with the quart one because that's what I went up. So bring it to a boil with your lid on. Once it's at a boil, set your timer for processing time, and we'll meet you back. Alright, my timer just went off. It's been processing for 20 minutes. I'm going to turn the heat off and take the lid off. You want to let it sit with the lid off for 5 minutes before you pull your jars out. Jars have sat in the canner for 5 minutes with the lid off. Just going to pull them out and set them to the side. Straight up and down, don't tilt them. You don't want anything to go into where your seal needs to form. I'm just going to come over here and set them. I have some towels down on the cabinet so there's no thermal shock between a cold cabinet and a hot jar. Look how beautiful those came out, guys. These plums have made the most beautiful colored stuff. Alright. There they are. I've got all the jars out of the canner. Now, just let them sit here 12 to 24 hours. I usually find 12's about good enough for me. Just let them sit, let them cool down on their own. The water on top will evaporate, or if you still have a little bit left when they're cool, you just come and dry it off. No biggie. Once they've sat the 12 to 24 hours, and they're good and cool to the touch, take your rings off, check your seals. They should, you can see right now it kind of looks like it's got a little bubble. They should be sucked down, and that will be concave, and you will not be able to flex the top with your finger. If you can flex the top with your finger, you'll need to put that jar in the fridge and consume it relatively soon. If they've sealed and they're all good, label your jars and they are ready to go. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to hit the like button for the video, and go enjoy your applesauce.